What if you could see yourself without judgment? What if you could stand before the mirror of your own soul and for once not look for what is wrong, but simply see what is there, not through the eyes of shame, not through the noise of comparison, not through the mind that keeps score of every mistake, but through the quiet gaze of God within you. They say judgment blinds you, and it does. For every time you judge, you separate yourself from what is. You turn the infinite into a label. You divide the wholeness of life into this is good and that is bad. And in that moment, you stop seeing, you stop being, but awareness. Awareness frees you. When you see without judgment, you see as God sees. You become the silent witness of all things. Not condemning, not defending, simply seeing. That's when a miracle happens. That's when you remember what's always been true. That God was never gone. You were simply too loud to hear him, too busy labeling what he was trying to teach you. This is the invitation of awakening, to see the world as it is, not as your mind says it should be, to let the eyes of the soul open and see everything as a teacher, the pain, the joy, the silence, the storm, to look upon your past not with blame, but with understanding, because God was there too, in every wound, in every fall, in every moment you thought you were alone. You were never alone. You were simply looking through the wrong eyes. You thought God had left, but you had only left the stillness, where he speaks. And now, he calls you home, not to a place, but to a seeing beyond judgment, beyond identity, beyond fear. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Feel this moment, not as something to control, but as something to witness. Notice the mind, how it wants to name, fix, explain. But don't. Just see. Just be aware. That awareness. That quiet space behind every thought. That's where God lives. That's where peace begins. For too long, you've been your own judge, jury, and executioner. You've condemned yourself for things that were never meant to be punished, only understood. You've played the teacher in places where God called you to learn. You try to fix others, when what you truly longed for was to heal yourself. But healing doesn't happen through control. Healing happens through seeing. So this journey, this voice you're hearing now, isn't here to teach you something new. It's here to unteach you the noise that covered your light, to help you see without the veil of judgment, to remind you what you already are. Because when you stop judging yourself, you stop judging others. And in that silence, you meet the God who never judged you to begin with. In this sacred space, you are both the student and the teacher. You are both the broken and the whole. You are both the question and the answer. And as you begin this journey, through the blindness of judgment, through the mirror of awareness, through the ego's masks and the heart's surrender, remember this truth. God sees through you. He speaks in the stillness between your thoughts, and his voice says gently, "My child, stop trying to define yourself. Just see, for when you see without judgment, you see my face in all things." Welcome to the power of seeing without judgment. Welcome to awareness. Welcome home. Chapter 1, The Blindness of Judgment. The inner judge. There's a voice inside you that is not your true voice. It speaks with authority, but not with truth. It tells you what you should be, what you should have done, what you should have become by now. It scolds you for your past, criticizes your present, and doubts your future. This is the inner judge, the one that inherited the language of fear, the expectations of the world, the tone of every unhealed wound you ever carried. You've called it motivation. You've called it discipline. But listen closely. It's not God's voice you're hearing. It's the echo of everything you were told you needed to be in order to be loved. It is not divine correction. It is human conditioning. It doesn't teach you, it condemns you. And yet, you obey it. You've mistaken its harshness for truth. Judgment does not correct you. It blinds you. It makes you look at your own reflection and see only what's missing. But tell me, how can you heal if you only ever see your wounds? How can you awaken if you only ever focus on what you think is wrong? Awareness is the light that heals. Judgment is the shadow that hides the light. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Now, notice, how often do you stand before yourself? Not as a friend, but as a critic? How often do you measure your worth? By your performance, your appearance, your mistakes? And when did you forget that your soul was never meant to be measured, only known? You are not what you judge. You are the one who sees the judgment. You are not the voice that condemns. You are the silence behind it. That silence, that awareness, is where God waits, not in your perfection, but in your presence, not in your achievements, but in your willingness to see clearly. The inner judge survives on resistance. It feeds on your attempts to fix what was never broken. It keeps you chasing approval that will never satisfy the soul. But when you stop arguing with it, when you just listen, without reacting, you realize something profound. The voice has no power unless you believe it. It's just a sound, just a memory echoing in your mind, just noise pretending to be truth. The habit of blame, judgment, does not stop at yourself. When you live by the mind of blame, you begin to project it onto others. You start to see the world as a courtroom, and everyone becomes a defendant. You judge others for doing what you secretly fear in yourself. You criticize them for carrying mirrors of your unhealed wounds. And so life becomes a circle of reflection, a constant projection of the pain you refuse to face. Every face you condemn is an aspect of you asking for compassion. Every flaw you point at in another is a wound asking for your forgiveness. The soul does not separate, only the mind does. And when the mind separates, it loses sight of God. Look at the world around you. Every person you've judged, every moment you've blamed. What if all of it was sent to show you something within yourself? Not to shame you, but to awaken you. Not to prove you wrong, but to help you see. Because what you judge in another, you strengthen within yourself. But what you see with compassion, you free. The noise of comparison. The modern world thrives on judgment. It disguises it as standards. It calls it success. But beneath the noise, it's still the same illusion. The belief that you're worth depends on how you compare. So you scroll, you watch, you measure, you label, and every comparison becomes a seed of discontent. You forget that what you're comparing is never the soul, only the surface. You forget that what you see in others is not better or worse. It's simply different expressions of the same divine essence. When you compare, you step out of the present moment. You leave your soul behind. You begin to chase someone else's reflection while abandoning your own. But the truth is, no two souls are meant to bloom the same. Your light doesn't need to compete. It only needs to shine. And when you return to awareness, you realize there was never a hierarchy in God's creation, only harmony. Judgment builds walls. Awareness opens windows. The moment you see without comparison, the moment you accept without defense, you begin to experience the peace that was never lost, only hidden. The prison of the mind, the greatest prison, is not built from stone or steel. It is built from thoughts. Thoughts of I should have, I shouldn't have, they should, they shouldn't. Every should is a bar around your freedom. Every judgment is a lock on your peace. And yet, the door has always been open. The key is awareness. You see, the mind loves judgment because it gives it a sense of control. If it can label, it feels safe. If it can blame, it feels powerful. But awareness asks you to surrender control, to let things be as they are, to trust the divine intelligence that moves through all things. This is not weakness, it's wisdom, because only when you stop controlling can you start seeing. Close your eyes again. Feel the breath enter and leave your body. Notice how life moves through you. Without your effort, the heart beats, the lungs rise, the stars move, and you are simply the witness. In this awareness, there is no judgment. There is only life unfolding. Perfect, complete, whole. The blindness of judgment is the forgetting of who you are, but the light of awareness is the remembrance. You were never the one who had to judge. You were never meant to play God. You were meant to see through his eyes. And through his eyes, there is no enemy, no failure, no mistake, only the dance of divine becoming. When you remove the lens of judgment, you don't lose discernment. You gain vision. You see not just what happens, but why. You see the purpose woven beneath the pain. You see God's hand moving in silence. And in that moment, judgment dissolves, peace enters, and awareness begins. Judgment blinds you, awareness frees you. When you stop labeling, you start seeing. And when you start seeing, you find God within. Chapter 2, the mirror of awareness. Seeing without name, there's a way of seeing that has nothing to do with the eyes. It does not name. It does not categorize. It does not divide. It simply witnesses. Before you call a tree tree, before you call yourself me, there is a moment of pure perception, a silent recognition that this is, that you are. That is awareness. That is what it means to see without name. Every label you place narrows the infinite. Every word you use turns mystery into memory. But when you see without the interference of thought, you touch reality as God created it, alive, new, and undefiled by the mind. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow breath and listen, not to the words, but to the space between them. That's silence. That's awareness watching itself. When you see without name, you see the divine essence beneath all form. You see not a person, but a soul. Not a problem, but a process. Not a sinner, but a seeker finding their way home. Awareness does not condemn. It does not flatter. It does not choose sides. It simply shines, like the sun, like love. And when you see this way, you begin to understand. God never departed. You just stopped seeing through his eyes. The quiet gaze in the stillness of awareness. You find the gaze that heals, not the gaze that analyzes, but the one that allows. When you allow, you don't fight what is. You stop wrestling with life, and life stops resisting you. This is the quiet gaze, the look of understanding, the look of love. You've looked at yourself with many eyes, the eyes of fear, of shame, of expectation. But have you ever looked at yourself with the eyes of grace? Have you ever looked at your pain without the urge to fix it, just to see it and let it breathe? That is the gaze of awareness. That is how God looks at you. When you see through the quiet gaze, you begin to feel again, not the noise of emotion, but the presence behind it. You realize the tears were never weakness. They were cleansing. The stillness was never emptiness. It was God waiting for your attention. And every time you soften your gaze, you allow heaven to open within you, the observer and the observed. Awareness is the meeting point between the observer and the observed. The moment you become aware, you're no longer lost in thought. You are witnessing thought, and the witness is free. Look within. Who is the one that feels? Who is the one that thinks? Who is the one that notices the thought? You are not the emotion. You are the one aware of the emotion. You are not the story. You are the silence hearing it. You are awareness itself, the timeless space, where all experience arises and falls away. Close your eyes. Feel your heart beating. Notice the awareness that notices the beat. That awareness has no age, no past, no future, no judgment. It is not touched by what happens. It simply is. That is the God within you. Not the form, but the formless. Not the voice in your head, but the silence behind it. When you begin to live from this place, you see the world differently. You stop reacting and start observing. You stop trying to control and start trusting. You realize that everything is unfolding exactly as it must for your awakening. And in that realization, peace enters, effort dissolves, awareness remains. God in the reflection. Awareness is not something you do. It's something you remember. It's the recognition that the same light that breathes through your being is the same light that shines in all. When you look into another's eyes, you're not looking at a stranger. You're looking at God, hiding behind another face. Every being you meet is a reflection of your own consciousness, a mirror showing what you have yet to love, what you have yet to forgive. And as you begin to see through judgment, you start to recognize the divine choreography behind every encounter. That person who hurt you, they were your teacher. That season of loneliness, it was your initiation. That silence where you thought God abandoned you, it was His way of showing you how to hear His whisper again. There is no separation in truth. The mirror of awareness reveals that all things are connected, all wounds, all hearts, all souls. Close your eyes again. Picture yourself standing before a mirror. But this time, don't look for flaws. Look deeper. Look until the reflection disappears, until all that remains is light. That is who you are. That is who everyone is. And when you see from this place, you no longer judge. You bless. The mirror of awareness is the holy ground where truth and grace meet, where you finally stop trying to change the reflection and start awakening to the light behind it. Because the reflection will always change, but the awareness seeing it remains eternal. And that awareness is the face of God within you. See through the mirror, not at it. For beyond every reflection, God is looking back. Chapter 3, the ego's mask, the need to be right. There's a hidden hunger inside the human heart. The need to be right. It wears many names. Certainty, pride, identity, control. But at its root, it is fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing the illusion of self. Fear of being seen without the armor. The need to be right is the ego's favorite disguise. Because when you are right, you feel safe. And when you're safe, you don't have to look deeper. But every time you defend your image, you defend your blindness. Every argument, every justification is a wall built to protect the illusion. And illusions, no matter how holy they appear, cannot stand in the light of truth. Have you noticed how exhausting it is to always be right, to prove, to explain, to control how others see you? It's because the soul was not created to defend itself. The soul was created to shine. When you are right, you win the argument. When you are aware, you win your peace. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Now ask yourself quietly, what am I trying to protect? What image am I afraid to lose? Because the part of you that fears being wrong is not the part of you that is real. It is the mask that trembles. At the sight of God's light, the illusion of superiority. Ego thrives on comparison. It defines itself by difference. I am more spiritual. I am more awakened. I am better than I used to be. But all of it is still judgment. Even spiritual pride is pride. Even holy arrogance is still separation. The illusion of superiority is the last mask the ego wears before it bows, because to think you are higher is still to believe in above and below. But in God, there is no hierarchy, only harmony. Awareness does not compete. It does not say, I am better. It says, I am. It recognizes all beings as expressions of the same divine source, each soul unfolding at its own rhythm, each path sacred in its own timing. When you believe you are above another, you disconnect from love. When you look down on another, you lose sight of the God within them. And yet, awareness gently corrects. My child, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is remembering that all are one in me. Superiority blinds. Humility reveals. Humility is not weakness. It is alignment. It is seeing through the eyes of God, where no soul is greater or lesser, only necessary. The role you play, every identity, is a costume. The achiever, the victim, the teacher, the chosen one, the sinner, the saint, all of them, roles in the theater of awakening. You put them on to learn something, to see something, to remember something, but none of them are who you truly are. You are not the role you play. You are the light that plays it. The body acts, the soul observes, the mind labels, the spirit witnesses. And in this play of divine becoming, you forget the stage is not your home. You start to take your role too seriously. You think the mask is your face. You defend the illusion as if it were your truth. But God whispers, my child, drop the script. The play is over. And in that moment of surrender, you feel the weight fall away. The mask begins to crack. And what remains is pure awareness. When a mask cracks, there comes a time in every soul's journey when a mask can no longer hold. You can feel it, the strain of pretending, the ache of hiding, the smile that doesn't match the eyes. The image of control begins to crumble. The ego's defenses weaken. And what emerges is not shame, but truth. You start to see yourself honestly, not as perfect, not as broken, but as becoming. You begin to feel the divine mercy that was always waiting beneath the layers of performance. And in that sacred unraveling, you find your true strength, the courage to be seen, without the need to be right, without the need to be admired, without the need to be someone. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Feel the air move through your lungs. The breath that has no label, no religion, no race, no title, just breath, just life, just being. That is who you are. Beneath the mask, when the mask cracks, the light enters. When the identity dissolves, the soul remembers. Judgment ends, where awareness begins. Because the moment you see the false self clearly, you stop fighting it. You simply smile and let it fall away. And from that silence, a new voice arises, not from the mind, but from the heart. A voice that whispers gently, you are not what you pretend to be. You are what remains when pretending ends. This is freedom, not becoming something greater, but removing what was never real, not climbing higher, but falling into truth, not gaining, but surrendering. And as the mask falls, you realize you were never lost. You were only hidden beneath the noise. the pride, the judgment, the fear. But now, the veil thins, the awareness opens, and the soul begins to see. The mask was never your enemy. It was your mirror, and once it reflected enough truth, it shattered. Chapter 4. The weight you carry. Emotional echoes. There are weights you carry that no one can see. The silent burdens, the unspoken regrets, the stories replaying in your chest. Like forgotten prayers. You smile, but your soul trembles. You move forward, but part of you is still standing in that old moment, where the pain began. Every wound that was never understood becomes an echo, a quiet vibration repeating itself through new faces, new days, new seasons, until awareness steps in and says softly, see it, don't judge it, don't run, just see, because what you judge, you keep alive. What you see with awareness, you release. The echoes are not punishment. They are invitations. They return not to haunt you, but to heal you. Close your eyes. Breathe in slowly. Now listen. What feeling have you been avoiding? What emotion have you labeled as wrong, as weak, as unspiritual? Let it surface. Let it tremble through you. Don't name it. Just allow. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to be seen, to be released, because awareness is the fire that purifies every echo. The stories you tell. You've told yourself many stories about who you are, about what happened, about what could have been. Each story builds a world. Each world becomes a prison. I was betrayed. I failed. I'm not enough. They ruined me. And slowly, you begin to live not in truth, but in narration. But here's the truth. The story is not you. It's the mind's attempt to make sense of what the heart never processed. And every time you repeat it, you keep the wound fresh. You keep the judgment alive. Awareness doesn't need a story. It only needs presence. Ask yourself, who would I be without this story? Without the narrative of pain? Without the role of victim or hero? You would be free. You would be now. You would be the presence behind the story. The consciousness that holds it all. In silence. That is who you truly are. Shame and self-blame. Shame is the heaviest chain the ego wears. It hides beneath perfectionism, underachievement, behind a smile. But inside, it whispers, I am unworthy. I am not forgiven. I am too late. And that whisper has kept countless souls from hearing God's voice. Shame is not divine. It is the echo of misunderstanding. It is what happens when you confuse awareness with condemnation. When you think God's light exposes you to humiliate instead of to heal. But awareness does not shame you. It shows you truth. Through the eyes of love, it reveals your wounds, not to punish, but to purify. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Now imagine every burden of shame you carry as a stone upon your back. Each memory, each mistake, each moment of regret. See them, feel them, and then release them one by one. Let them fall into the river of grace. You are not what you've done. You are what you've learned. You are not the story. You are the soul awakening through it. Shame dies when truth is seen, and truth is love. Laying down the burden. You've carried so much. The weight of expectation, the pressure to be perfect, the grief you never spoke aloud. But God never asked you to carry it. He asked you to see it. He asked you to bring your burden to Him, not in fear, but in honesty, because what you hide cannot heal, and what you reveal to awareness is already forgiven. You've mistaken strength for endurance, but true strength is surrender. To lay the burden down is not to give up. It is to finally trust that you don't have to be your own savior. Close your eyes again. Take a slow, deep breath, and with your exhale, imagine everything you've been carrying, leaving your body, your chest, your mind. Let it fall at the feet of God within you. Let it dissolve in the light of awareness. Feel how light you become when you stop holding what no longer belongs. You are not what you've been through. You are what you are becoming through it. You are the awareness watching it all, untouched, unbroken, eternal. And the weight you carry was never meant to crush you. It was meant to awaken you. This is what surrender feels like. Not defeat, but deliverance. Not losing control, but finding peace. When the heart surrenders judgment, the soul remembers love. When the burden is laid down, the wings unfold. And in that moment, you finally understand. God was never testing your strength. He was revealing your softness, your humanness, your divinity beneath it all. Lay down the burden, forgive yourself, and let the light carry what your mind never could. This is the release. This is the return. This is what it means to see without judgment, to see everything as part of the same holy unfolded. Chapter 5, the sacred pause, the space between thoughts. There is a space between each thought, a stillness beneath every emotion, a quiet beneath all noise. You may not notice it, but it's always there. It's where you meet yourself, where you meet God. You've been living in movement, in reaction, in thought, in control. But the sacred happens, not in the noise you make, but in the pauses between. Every moment of true awareness is a return to that space. It's not empty, it's full of peace. It's not nothing, it's everything. In the pause, you realize you're not your thoughts. You are the witness of them. You are not the noise. You are the silence from which the noise arises. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Now, don't follow the thoughts. Don't fight them either. Let them pass, like clouds crossing the sky. You're not the clouds. You're the sky itself, infinite, untouched, still. When you rest in this seeing, you begin to understand. You've never been lost, only distracted. God was never gone, only unnoticed. Silence speaks. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of the eternal. In silence, you stop trying to reach God and realize you were never apart. You stop chasing meaning and become meaning itself. You stop performing prayer and become prayer embodied. When judgment falls away, when control dissolves, silence begins to speak, not in words, but in knowing, not in sentences, but in stillness. The silence says, "You are not broken. You are being refined." It says, "The waiting was never wasted. It was preparing you to hear." It says, "You don't have to understand everything. You just have to be present enough to receive." The mind fears silence because it cannot control it, but the soul longs for it because that's where it feels home. Close your eyes again. Let this silence hold you. Feel the divine rhythm within your breath. Inhale, God enters. Exhale, you return. Between the inhale and exhale, there is a still point. That still point is the doorway to eternity. The art of allowing. To allow is to trust the unfolding, to stop judging what arises, and simply let it be. This is not passivity. It's alignment. It's no longer forcing your will upon life, but letting divine order move through you. Allow the joy, allow the pain, allow the confusion, allow the peace. Each is a teacher. Each carries a message. Even what you resist is grace in disguise. You've been trying to heal by control, but healing happens by surrender. You don't need to fix the emotion. You need to allow it to be seen. When you let awareness hold it, it dissolves naturally, like ice melting under sunlight. Everything transforms when it is held in love. When you allow what is, you begin to see life, not as chaos, but as choreography. Every delay, every heartbreak, every silence, every prayer unanswered was never against you. It was shaping you into the vessel that can now hold the divine, the eternal presence. Awareness is not a tool. It is your essence. It was there before your first thought. It will remain after your last breath. It is what watches birth and death alike, and calls both holy. It has no name, no form, no age, and yet it is the most intimate thing you'll ever know. You've mistaken awareness for attention, but attention moves. Awareness simply is. Awareness is the space in which attention plays. It is the light by which you see all experience. It does not judge. It simply shines. And in that shining, everything finds its rightful place. Every shadow reveals its meaning. Every pain shows its lesson. Awareness doesn't fix life. It reveals that nothing was ever broken. Hold on. Can you feel it? That quiet, expansive presence, just behind your thoughts. That's you. That's God within you. Not somewhere distant, not someone else, but this silent knowing that has always been watching, loving, guiding. Be still and know that I am God. This is not a command of obedience. It is an invitation to remembrance. To be still is to see clearly. To see clearly is to love purely. And when you rest in this seeing, when judgment dissolves completely, what remains is only love, unconditional, infinite, God-breathed. This is the sacred pause, the space where your soul breathes again, the stillness where the divine whispers. You are home. Chapter 6, the eyes of God within you, seeing through the false. You have eyes, but do you truly see? You look at the world through filters of memory, of pain, of identity, of story. You see not what is, but what the mind believes. And in that blindness, you call it truth. Every judgment is a veil. Every assumption is a shadow that covers the light of real seeing. You look at another and think, I know who they are. You look at yourself and say, I know what I've become. But the truth is, you don't. Not until you see without judgment. Not until you look with the eyes of God. The eyes of God do not label. They illuminate. They see the sinner and the saint, and call both divine. They see the wound, and also the wisdom within it. They see what is, without distortion, without story, without fear. Look within. How do you see yourself? Through the eyes of past mistakes? Through the eyes of comparison? Through the lens of not enough? Now imagine looking through God's eyes. No blame, no pride, just love that understands everything. Because it is everything. That's what it means. To see without judgment. To see from a center of pure awareness. The mirror of reflection. Everyone you meet is a mirror, not a coincidence, not a random stranger. A reflection of what still lives within you. The kind person mirrors your light. The one who irritates you mirrors your shadow. The one who triggers you shows the place that still aches to be healed. And the one you love deeply mirrors the part of God you've begun to remember. If you judge them, you resist the reflection. If you see them with awareness, you integrate the reflection. Judgment divides. Awareness unites. Every soul you meet is helping you awaken. Every encounter is divine choreography, designed by love itself, to show you yourself. Take a breath. Think of someone who challenges you deeply. Now, instead of judging, ask, what are they showing me about myself that I've refused to see? The moment you ask this in honesty, the mirror clears, the heart opens, And what was once conflict becomes clarity. This is the higher seeing, where you no longer react, but reflect, where you no longer attack, but understand, where you no longer separate, but return everything back to love. The compassionate gaze. There's a gaze within you that heals everything it looks upon. The gaze of compassion, it sees not just the wound, but the reason behind it, not just the mistake, but the suffering that birthed it. This is how God sees you. When you fall, He doesn't recoil. He reaches. He reminds. He sees not your failure, but your becoming. And when you begin to see yourself like that, judgment fades. Condemnation loses its power. You start to realize you've never needed fixing. You've only needed understanding. Every time you look at yourself with compassion, you invite heaven into your humanity. Every time you extend that compassion to another, you bring light into the world. Because compassion is not pity. It is divine seeing. It is the eye of the heart. To see as God sees is to forgive as God forgives. Compassion doesn't justify the wrong. It reveals the pain behind it. It doesn't erase accountability. It transforms it into awakening. And slowly, the line between you and others dissolves. The line between heaven and earth fades into one continuum of grace. The return of holy vision. When judgment dies, vision returns. The holy kind, the seeing that pierces illusion, the gaze that recognizes God in all things. This is the seeing of the awakened soul, the vision of the chosen one, who has walked through shadow and found light within. This is not fantasy. It is reality without distortion. To see without judgment is to see through God's mind. To look at creation and whisper, "It is good." You see your scars and bless them. You see your past and thank it. You see others and recognize yourself in their eyes. Because once you've seen God within, you can't unsee Him anywhere else. Breathe. Feel your eyes soften. Let your gaze become gentle again. Notice how everything around you, the room, the sounds, the light, feels alive when you stop naming it. You are seeing again, not with the mind, but with the soul. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, not somewhere in heaven, but here, in this moment, in this breath, in this seeing. This is the power of awareness. This is the vision of the heart. This is what it means to see through the eyes of God within you. Now, there is nothing left to fix, nothing left to prove. Only seeing, only being, only God. Chapter 7. The gift of pure awareness. The end of striving. For so long, you have been striving to become holy, to be enough, to understand, to reach God. But now, you begin to see you were never apart. The one who was seeking was already what was sought. The journey was never about arriving. It was about remembering. Awareness was not something to gain. It was the light that was already shining. Beneath the noise of becoming, you were the sky, trying to touch its own clouds. You were the ocean, searching for its own depth. You were God, forgetting His own reflection. Close your eyes. Breathe gently. Now, without labeling, without effort, just notice. You are aware. This simple noticing is the end of seeking. This awareness is the peace you have been chasing. Through lifetimes of thought, the merging of the two, you once believed there were two, you and God, you and life, you and others. But awareness reveals there is only one. The separation was only perception, a trick of the mind, to help you see yourself through contrast. Every you in them, every above and below, every light and dark, was never a division, but a dialogue within the same wholeness. The Creator and the created were never apart. The breath you take is God breathing himself into form. I and the Father are one. These words are not a claim of ego, but a remembrance of truth. When you see without judgment, you see unity. When you live from awareness, you live as the expression of God. Look within. There is no boundary between your being and the stillness around you. That stillness is you. That awareness watching through your eyes. That is God looking through you as you. The peace that passes understanding. When judgment dies, the mind grows quiet. When a mind grows quiet, the heart opens. When the heart opens, peace enters, not as a visitor, but as your true home. This peace does not depend on answers. It does not come from control. It is born from surrender, from the willingness to stop fighting life and start flowing with it. This peace is not fragile. It is vast, unshakable, eternal, because it does not come from the world. It comes from awareness itself. You no longer chase it. You are it. You no longer pray for light. You realize you are the light through which prayer exists. Breathe into your heart. Let your awareness settle deep within your chest. Feel the rhythm of peace. Steady, gentle, infinite. This is the peace that passes understanding. It doesn't explain itself. It simply is. The light beyond all names. There comes a moment when words dissolve, when concepts fade, when even God becomes too small a name. For the vastness you now feel, this is the threshold where awareness meets eternity. The silence you used to fear now becomes your temple. The emptiness you ran from becomes fullness beyond measure. You see now that everything, every joy, every heartbreak, every silence was God in disguise, calling you back to this knowing that seeing was never about the eyes. It was about awakening the heart, to recognize the divine in all things. The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. Meister Eckhart, in his holy seeing, there is no you in him, only awareness, witnessing itself as love. You are home, you are whole, you are light. Look at your life now, as it passes before your inner vision. All the people, all the pain, all the beauty, see it not as chaos, but as divine orchestration. Every moment, every lesson was God teaching you how to see. To see without judgment is to walk in truth. To walk in truth is to live as love. To live as love is to become the very presence of God on earth. You don't need to escape the world. You just need to see it rightly, through still eyes, through a quiet heart, through awareness so pure. It turns everything into light. Judgment blinds you. Awareness frees you. When you see yourself without labels, without blame, you see the face of God within. Let this be your mantra. I am awareness. I am peace. I am one with God. Amen.